Well, it looks like I'm gonna need help on this one again, and I know just who to call.
You held back Godzilla vs. Kong again to 2021! Okay, fuck it. I might as well do a let's talk on an update on the production of Godzilla vs. Kong. What the fuck? Ow! What the hell?
BigJackFilms!
Isaac? What the hell are you doing?
Well, I needed help with a certain movie that I know you have expertise on, and I figured I'd bring you here this time to review it with me.
I'd rather be in my own space, thank you very much. Now change me back! Although, to be fair, I look kinda badass.
Well, if you insist.
What the? Not this way!
Alright.
Oh, thank God. Oh, man. Unless it's my FDT machine, I don't feel comfortable having all my molecules rearranged like in Star Trek.
Anyway, I know you know more about King Kong than I do, so I need your help in figuring out just what the hell this is.
Ah, shit pickles. I gotta take a look at this thing again?
I mean, if you would be so kind, you are the expert, and I need answers.
Well, screw it. We're all under lockdown anyway, and I got nothing better to do. Plus, it'll give me a chance to talk about stuff I missed in my original review. Link down below.
Great! Let's get started. So yeah, King Kong Lives is apparently a sequel film to the 1976 King Kong movie. How the hell did this happen again?
Well, Isaac, since it's a bit of a history lesson, I'll give you the skinny. Dino De Laurentiis was originally interested in making a sequel to his financial hit film, the 1976 remake of King Kong, and some of his ideas for potential film projects included King Kong in Africa and King Kong in Moscow. He was even considering doing a remake of the original film sequel Son of Kong, though alas, nothing really came to his vision for a sequel to his first remake until October 1985, when the film was first formally announced. It would see the return of John Guillermin as the director, and instead of Dino De Laurentiis acting as a producer, his wife Martha, credited as Martha Schumacher, no relation, acted in his place. And instead of Lorenzo Semple, one of the original screenplay writers this time around was Ronald Schwazet, who surprisingly wrote the 1979 Ridley Scott classic Alien.
I take it Paramount was on board with funding this movie like last time?
Not this time around, Isaac. At the time the sequel was greenlit, from what I'd gathered, Paramount bailed out, and Dino De Laurentiis was having to finance the film himself and shoot the film at his newly built studio in North Carolina. Early on, Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange were considered to return, but obviously other projects as well as Academy Awards were on their mind. So the filmmakers had to write a totally new sequel featuring only Kong as the only returning character. However, Dino did have some help from, of all people, Universal, who battled against the producer for the rights to a remake back in the 1970s. By that time, not only did Universal acquire future rights to the characters, but also began construction on the King Kong encounter at Universal Studios Hollywood, which was to open in the summer of 1986. And then 6 months later, King Kong Lives would open in December. So in a sense, 1986 was a big year for King Kong in the pop culture.
So can we gather for a bigger film with more money thrown in?
Let's see if a lower budget can bring on bigger ideas. This is King Kong Lives.
So the movie begins... wait, what the... Did I somehow put in a copy of the 76 King Kong movie by mistake?
Nope! This is how King Kong Lives starts, by showing the ending to the previous film, where King Kong dies. Odd.
Well, at least this means we'll be getting Rick Baker again, right? Right?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Isaac. So once we see King Kong die, In King Kong Lives, we cut to 10 years later at an Atlanta institute where we hear the familiar heartbeat of a certain giant gorilla. For yes, despite being pumped with bullets and falling off one of the tallest buildings in the world, King Kong is alive, in a coma and on life support.
What? How? They couldn't have been able to save him in the time after he fell, especially given how many people were there at the time. And what would this mean for Dwan, who was especially close to him and would have known about his condition at the time?
Well, we may never know, Isaac, since she doesn't appear outside of the reused footage. Although, to be fair, I heard she hooked up with a really cool guy in Scotland.
You know how fine you are to me, Robert McGregor.
That movie is so underrated. Thanks, Mel Gibson!
Anyway, I will say the sets look good so far. The animatronics for Kong look alright, and they do at least make it plausible for a lab to be fitted with Kong's size in mind.
Yeah, I'll admit that the full-size pieces are honestly where the money is at in terms of the special effects in this movie. Using the technique to build the full-size dead Kong at the end of the first movie using plywood framing, styrofoam, and fiberglass, they used it a lot more in this one, instead of making a full-scale hydraulic mannequin that would only be used for 20 seconds of screen time.
Alright, so from what I understand, Amy Franklin, played by Linda Hamilton, was able to restore his heartbeat long ago, and since last year, they've been trying to construct an artificial heart for Kong. But since he's been in a coma for too long, he doesn't have enough blood to really make it work, and there's no other animal like him that can give him a blood transplant.
Only one thing can save Kong.
What's that?
A miracle.
And that miracle is none other than our leading actor of the movie, Brian Kerwin, playing Hank Mitchell. Think Alec Baldwin and Owen Wilson playing Indiana Jones and you got a pretty good idea of what he's like.
Oh, anything in there better scram, because Mitch is coming in for a snooze. And that includes you. Oh, come here. Find your own bed.
Well, that didn't take long. It's only been like 7 minutes, and we're just gonna reveal that there's another ape like Kong?
Well, with Kong in a coma for the first 30 minutes of this movie, we need something to get the action and adventure going in this plot.
So, while the bits with the animatronics seem well done, I can't help but find it weird this thing is moving around like a gorilla would, rather than how Kong did in the previous movie. And the suit seems especially different.
Yeah, the effects team this time around added more gorilla features into the ape's character, most notably arm extensions, which unlike the first film with Kong much more bipedal, sticks out like a sore thumb in this film.
So this other ape gets darted up by the native tribe Hank hired, and down she goes! Guess this tribe has a different viewpoint on their giant gorillas.
In continuation with how greedy man can be, the following scene shows Amy with her superiors, including Andrew Ingersoll, played by Peter Goetz, and Benson Hughes, played by Frank Margarin, wishing to get Kong's blood while Hank is only interested in selling the whole ape for the most money. Even more interest shows when they learn the ape is a female.
Cannot bring a female here.
What are you talking about?
Sir, we are not lancing a hemorrhoid here, we're replacing a heart.
I am well aware of that, Dr. Franklin.
The slightest upset while Kong is recuperating.
Oh, wait a minute, who is that? Doc, I'm warning you. I got Harvard on the other line.
Get the blood. Let someone else have the female.
Amy, you're exaggerating the danger.
Yeah, our giant ape is only interested in human model women. He isn't going to go ape over this other gorilla. So with Hank happy he's getting rich, he arrives in Georgia on a large plane with the giant female ape in the back, and she wasn't sedated or anything. The last movie had Kong on a giant ship, and him acting up nearly caused it to sink. Being transported by plane would be even riskier.
Well, just as Kong had Dwan to calm him down in the first film, Lady Kong, as she will be known by, has Hank as the hero who tames the heroine. However, with the first movie, the relationship was drawn out over a period of time, and you got to see why Kong was fascinated with Dwan and vice versa. Here, Hank has a female Kong darted by natives, and by the time they reach land, she's just swooned by him. Yeah, well, it's kinda odd and weird. The relationship is honestly kinda sweet and cute, and a great gender reverse to the first film.
So Hank and Amy get their first interaction with each other, face to face this time, and after dealing with the press, Hank gives the female a name.
You're not gonna get what you want from Lady Kong.
Which reminds me, Why a name like Lady Kong? Shouldn't it be Queen Kong?
Well, that's due to the British parody made back when the '76 film was in production, and both Universal and Paramount had the movie banned in the US for almost 30 years. Yeah, funny enough, Queen Kong didn't get an official DVD release until the Peter Jackson movie came out.
Huh. How surreal. Anyway, we get around to the operation. I still like how they made large equivalents to blood bags and the like, just for the fact they're dealing with 2 giant apes in one setting. And as silly as it might seem that they're doing a heart and blood transplant for Kong, I feel a little excited to see how this turns out. I even felt a lot of tension when they try lowering their new heart into him and things go wrong. Like damn, even if somehow this movie turns out unnecessary, they sure as hell try making the revival process seem interesting.
I have to agree with Isaac here. It's honestly well set up in logic, in production design, and the amount of blood and guts spattered during the scene. It's quite tense, and it does leave you hoping King Kong, well, lives.
Well, with the heart finally in, we can only assume it worked because of what follows.
Prestigious institute, long arrival of Harvard and Yale, has suddenly found itself in the grip of a mad disease. Kong mania has invaded the hallowed halls of academia.
Yeah, never mind what happened 10 years ago when the ape broke loose, destroyed property, and killed some people along the way. We have a giant ape again!
Well, what do you expect? We're in the South. Hell, it's still full of brain-dead idiots. So Lady Kong is confined to a warehouse, while Hank is partying up at his place. And surprisingly enough, in a brief moment, he mentions why he thought to go to Borneo, the island he found Lady Kong on.
We figure that Kong Island and Borneo were both part of the same landmass.
And that's all you need to know. Just that they might have been together and thus could have had another giant ape. This could have been a nice way to have some world building, but fuck it, they're not making a third one of these.
But we don't have time for that because this movie has some rather fast pacing. Depending on which version of the '76 King Kong film you see, the pacing would vary, but compared to this, they seemed rather fine since they allowed more time for building up suspense. With this movie, we hardly waste a time in showing off the second Kong and getting the transplant done. Like, maybe if they waited till the half-hour mark for this scene and spent a little more time building up to Lady Kong, either way, we have at least an hour and 10 minutes left. And that's a shame since the previous movie was about 2 hours long.
I actually kind of agree on that. Imagine seeing Hank in Borneo discovering with an expedition an ancient ruins in the jungles with connections to Kong's island and how it broke away centuries ago. But much like Son of Kong wanting to make a bigger picture than the first, it's more than likely it wasn't possible due to the tight budget. Anyway, once Kong starts waking up from his long nap, his first instinct is smelling the air with that sweet Lady Kong perfume.
Horny son of a bitch. He smells a female a mile away.
And it's not just him, even Lady Kong seems to be feeling the heat.
Now, despite Kong's attempts to get out, his body is still not yet used to his new heart, so he ends up collapsing after getting more sedatives in him. Amy then rushes over to where Hank's party is to warn him and her superiors that they may need to move Lady Kong as soon as possible. This also leads to some character development with Amy and Hank, who are essentially the main human couple for this movie, just as Kong and Lady Kong are the main animal couple.
Listen, I'm sorry about my tone in there. I didn't realize.
Forget it.
Well, I'll drive you home, if you like. I mean, I just want to make sure you get home. I'm not trying to hit on you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I can navigate on my own.
I just see another relationship ripping off Han Solo and Princess Leia in The Empire Strikes Back.
Well, that or what that guy said in the party prior.
You don't need me, you've got Indiana Jones.
Ha! It's funny because reference! Ha! God, these jokes are cringe!
So even though they said it would take 2 days to move Lady Kong, frankly it only needed a few minutes for her torment to get Kong to respond. Maybe leaving just one security guard and none of the scientists to keep him on anesthetics was a bad idea. Also, I thought Kong was still in recovery, so how is he doing this on the same night he had a heart attack?
Probably for the same reason why we never see a giant scar on his chest after the surgery. Well, after Hank and Amy try to convince everyone not to be rough with Lady Kong,
That's what she
King Kong shows up, which leads to some awesome kaiju destruction.
stare into those soulless black eyes.
Well, due to the budget and Carlo Rambaldi's differences in design, the suits do honestly look cheaper in the facial expressions. The eyes are much more human, and unlike Rick using massive contact lens, this time the eyes are purely the actors to provide a bit more reliability on facial acting.
But at least we still have Baker, even if he sounds a bit off from last time.
Yeah, Isaac, I gotta be real with you, Rick Baker's not in this movie.
What?
Yeah, for King Kong, we have Peter Elliott in the suit. While he's had some speaking roles, both past and present, most of his filmography is him providing choreography and acting as an ape in a suit. Unfortunately, Rick was on top of his effects game in the late 80s, working on the likes of Harry and the Hendersons and Gorillas in the Mist. Plus, with the budget, the effects had to be down a grade. But thankfully, Carlo Rambaldi, fresh off his success of E.T. and Baby Secret of the Lost Legend, and who created the full-scale Kong animatronics in the first film, returns to the sequel with both full-size pieces and ape suits. Due to the original pieces being left to rot in the storages of Dino's company, the entire effects pieces were built from scratch with some improved but more cheaper materials.
Oh, that's disappointing and sad.
And I mean, to be fair, they could have done worse. They could have gone with Carlo Rambaldi's original design from the '76 remake. Because fun fact, in the first film, Rick and Carlo Rambaldi didn't get along too well, and both had different ways in designing their Kong suit. Rambaldi wanted to go for more of a human-ape hybrid that was described in the script, while Rick Baker went for a much more classic gorilla design, which the studios ultimately chose as the better option. The only remnants of what Rambaldi's design could have looked like for the human-ape Kong hybrid was with the giant animatronic at the end of the film, hence why both designs don't look too similar when it comes to cutting in the editing room. So now the movie goes into full-on action as the humans try subduing the two, and even resorting to shooting guns. Of course, Kong deals with that easily and carries Lady Kong off like a damsel in distress. With them loose, the military gets called in when Hank is forced to follow Amy in finding the two Kongs before they do.
Okay, now, have you talked to this army character, what's his name?
Colonel Nevitt?
Yeah.
He says he'll shoot the first civilian that crosses his perimeter.
Jeez, the military wasn't that harsh in the first movie. Anyway, Nevitt is played by John Ashton, and it seems like at first he's willing to gas the apes to sleep instead of killing them outright.
But yeah, how long is it going to take for them to change military tactics when nothing goes his way? This is the US military we're talking about.
Yeah, you got a point. Now this scene with Kong trying to woo Lady Kong to him is kinda neat. Though I have to question whether we have pythons that would be that big when considering the Kongs' size with the humans.
To be honest, Kong and Lady's chemistry is one of the few highlights of the film, and it's honestly really sweet, and in a way animalistically natural of how the suit performers pull it off. You could tell this was a scene where the effects crew were really having some fun on the set during the days of shooting.
And the music that plays here? Seems like a bit of a contrast with the previous movie that had more grandeur with its setting and plot. While there's some good background music by John Scott here, I wouldn't imagine something so, well, for lack of a better term, lighthearted?
Well, to be honest, Isaac, despite my disappointment in them not using themes from the first film by John Barry, not to mention not using Kong's original roars by the great Peter Cullen, Scott's music is honestly another positive to the film, and has some vibes similar to the original score by Max Steiner, but brought into the style of 80s cinema.
I do appreciate the moments without dialogue, though, and the suits are expressive enough to let you know how they feel and can understand what's going on. While Kong might be a bit brash in his methods of earning her attention, she does warm up to him and tries healing him. Even if it's against the tone of the previous film, it's still not a bad scene.
But then we cut back to Hank and Amy, who the latter ends up going off-road in their attempt to avoid the military and run smack into them, even getting shot at in the process.
So, what was the plan again? Because even if they got away, the military is just going to track them down again. The military is just going to track them down eventually.
Well, it could be worse. They could have gone all John Rambo in First Blood.
Don't push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.
Actually, given Linda Hamilton's role as Sarah Connor in Terminator 2, that would kinda actually be an upgrade. The two intend to track Kong down and use the cardiac unit to make sure his heart is still working. After the two have a little accident when crossing the river, but make it out alright. This is meant to further develop these two since they started off bickering and having a distaste for one another, since one is a woman of science and the other is an adventurous capitalist.
Well, they eventually find the two apes, about to sleep, and I'm surprised neither of them noticed the humans nearby. Also, Kong's heart is stronger than ever, probably because of his commitment to his girlfriend. The humans camp out nearby, and after a while, they start making out. This dynamic isn't as good as when it was between Kong and another human. Even if, obviously, it would never get intimate, it was still fascinating seeing someone who would be considered pretty fall for a beast that's probably just as beautiful on the inside. Like, Dwan from the previous movie was fascinated by how something as fierce and mighty as Kong could develop the same sort of feelings and understanding a human would. But without that here, it just seems like they're only drawing parallels between two couples of different species.
Honestly, I think that was the idea. Plus, we get to see this.
Kong, he's gone.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, not showing that.
Yeah, it's cool. At least it's not Kinky Kong.
Kinky what?
Don't look it up.
Well, it took the military long enough to find the missus of the Kongs and gas her up, while King Kong is away getting food. Though he does show up after, and they try gassing him too. However, they only seem interested in taking Lady Kong away, and not him. They even start using flamethrowers on him while driving him away from where she is taken. But surely they'll just keep gassing him until he does pass out, right?
Kill that hairy son of a bitch now!
It's always gotta be that solution when dealing with Mr. Kong. I gotta love how the scene keeps switching from a clear sky to a mostly cloudy sky, and it's supposed to lead into a major storm, but it just seems like they wanted to be overly dramatic with this major confrontation, despite how much light there is in the area. Sure, it makes moments like this look awesome, but all this just makes me think they wanted to top the previous film.
Yeah, as much as the budget was lower and pretty damn tight, you gotta give them credits for at least trying in conception. Fortunately, Kong jumps into the ravine. Oh, how the tables have turned. Thinking it's the only way to escape, though he cracks his head on a large rock while in the rapids, and according to Amy's machine, he seems to flatline. King Kong is gone. If only they learned how to save him instead of straight out showing the title, implying that he lives. If only. If only. Anyway, now they have Lady Kong trapped in some military base, and as for the human duo, well, Hank apparently went back to Borneo to look for something, while Amy is trying to check on Lady Kong.
That's rather abrupt. They were just together about 3 months ago. Now they separated?
That seems to be a factor in a lot of today's renditions of Kong. The aftermath of the adventures is always a sign of breakups. Dating tip, guys, if you want to win a woman's heart, don't take them out into jungles with giant gorillas. It's a total turnoff. Also, both Lady Kong and Amy think King Kong is alive, despite the military finding no trace of him, and even Hughes believes he can't be alive because he needs to eat a lot of protein. So, guess what he ends up eating?
I mean, gorillas are considered omnivores, so this would make sense. Though if he's had to eat for about 3 months, I think the animal population might have dwindled and no one noticed.
I mean, to be fair, Isaac, having visited the South and trying gator, it tastes like chicken, but it feels like you're chewing rubber. So it's a much better eating habit for King Kong. But no matter how far apart they might be, the two will always share a connection with each other.
So it seems the only reason Hank left is to secure land on Borneo for when they eventually free Lady Kong. So, okay, you're excused. Seeing that she's not eating or feeling well, Hank tries to force his way in. Even by movie logic, I feel like he should have been shot. Otherwise, Kong feels lonely and during his searching, gets spotted. In fact, the whole town he's in starts reacting. What happened with Kong Mania?
It was more popular in California.
Now it just seems like they're displaying how insane people can be when dealing with something they don't understand. It's like the only solution is violence.
Though they were smart enough to trap the canyon with Kong showing up and burying him neck up with styrofoam rocks.
Yet they are still drunk and stupid if their first instinct is to get close to him and take photos. And honestly, while one of them has the sense not to stoop to their level, I really don't like how cruel these guys are in wanting to torture him. Yes, man is ugly as hell. You don't need to overdo it.
Well, on the plus side, at least it... Excuse me for a moment, Isaac. Ah, mail! I always love getting fan mail. Let's see. Oh, the karma came knocking!
Damn! That felt good, oddly enough. Some of these death scenes are pretty well done.
It might be more noticeable given age and the lower budget this time around, but yeah, the kills are great in this movie. Some of the best in Kong's history and definitely deserving.
Amy and Hank find Kong and notice his heart is weakening, so she has to try fixing it from a distance. But Kong walks by and he steps on the machine, meaning he'll only have like a day left to live.
Well, that's plenty of time to have another clash with the military, and Nevin is intending to kill it despite orders to capture. Oh, evil movie American generals, don't ever change, you're too much fun. Amy and Hank wait until the night to start sneaking into the base, which is when Kong shows up to fight the military.
And how does Kong plan to battle these Avatar-esque generals?
He throws them a good old, what song is this meme?
And while that happens, Amy and Hank make it inside, knock out some guards, and start elevating Lady Kong out of the base. Unfortunately, it seems the military overrides their escape plan, but guess who shows up to save the day?
And in a reversal of roles, Hank is the one being held in the hands of another ape.
And how long has this been going on?
Well, Amy is the one worried for his safety. Don't worry, I'll get a crew of cutthroats, villains, and scoundrels with Tommy guns and we'll explore the jungle! Let's save Hank!
In a bit of a funny moment, the two apes invade a family reunion and it looks like whatever is happening with Lady Kong causes her to fall backward into a barn. Turns out she was in labor this whole time.
And right on cue, the military shows up!
Now, even though the amount of firepower exceeds the copters from the previous movie, Kong just pushes on through and starts wrecking the crap out of the military.
It's a pretty disturbing scene, honestly, with Kong completely soaked in blood, and with the final battle music queued up by John Scott, it really makes this scene quite epic, tragic, and heroic for Kong's final stand.
And Nevit meets his end the only way Kong knows how. And I guess the military gives up after losing their one leader.
But unfortunately, Kong's heart is about to give out. But before he dies, he uses the last of his life to ensure that the child they have produced will come out okay. And he seems about the size of a regular gorilla? Seriously, what the hell? All that weight, all that mass and pain Lady Kong went through, and it's the equivalent of popping out a G.I. Joe action figure? Though to be fair, the original suit had a much more massive mascot-based head and eventually was redone for later reshoots.
If anything, he actually does look like a gorilla despite having just been born. In what's considered the saddest moment in the movie, Kong is able to reach out to his newborn son and even hold on to him for a bit before he eventually passes away. With that, we can now say that Kong is dead.
But at least they can live happily together in a place they call home. For even without the eighth wonder of the world, he still carries on the legacy that will live on. In a Filmation cartoon that never happened, along with any other follow-ups. So that was King Kong Lives, and despite it not being a good movie per se, especially compared to the '76 remake, I can't help but still admit that it is a guilty pleasure for me. Despite the attempts to tell an interesting story with a tight budget, this movie unfortunately was a box office disaster rolling into theaters, and bombed big time. It never got a massive press in the media, and as the first film, it seemed like the production was so embarrassed that they didn't even provide preview screenings upon its release. Seriously, even Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert were roasting it at this time.
But this new one is so bad that the film company actually sent Roger and me letters. Obviously, they were scared. So, no scenes from King Kong Lives. That's almost a public service. No, I won't be a critic, and I won't tell the truth about this film, because there was nothing on the screen that was even slightly entertaining to them.
And I can see it is rather justified. Seriously, a lot of this felt like bad news all around. I'm a little mixed on this movie. Like, on one hand, they do a really good job with certain set pieces, the way some scenes are shot, there's some good dialogue here and there, and even some good action. On the other hand, though, it felt really unnecessary to have to ignore the first movie a bit, in terms of cast and theme, just for a what-if scenario of Kong living again. It was sorta unique, from what I've seen, but still, I get why it wouldn't have been received well. While I can't say it's the worst movie ever, and I think it deserves a little more praise than what it got, it's not something I would watch again. It would be entertaining for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, just don't expect a repeat of the first movie.
King Kong Lives is honestly a really forgettable sequel, and probably 10 years of development hell made it fall into obscurity. In fact, this movie was so poorly received that Dino De Laurentiis immediately sold his newly built studio that they shot it on, and it was John Gellerman's last film before essentially leaving the film business and retiring peacefully until his passing in 2015. But despite its bad reputation, it's honestly a fun time for me as a forgotten action-adventure film of 80s cinema, and considering all the other shitty Kong movies I've watched on my show, this movie I still hold in high regards as a fun standalone film in Kong's filmography. The characters, despite being one-dimensional, do try their best with the material, especially Linda Hamilton right after the success of The Terminator. The special effects, despite a low budget, still look presentable, and the music by John Scott really gives the film the weight and emotion it needs to be, and to be honest, if it didn't have the score, the movie would lose a lot of credibility for me.
Take it for what it's worth, and you'll have a good time with some popcorn in hand. Once again, a big thanks to BigJackFilms for helping me co-host this episode. When it comes to King Kong related content, his channel is always the best for resources, even making his own fan-made remake.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Isaac. Feel free to reach out to me anytime you do anything King Kong related. Even if it's movies I've already reviewed, it gives me a chance to rediscuss these films in much more lengthy discussions.
Anytime, neighbor to the north. With that, I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.
And this is Big Jack Films signing off saying, I don't have a closing catchphrase. Screw this, I'm gonna go review Legend.